evening. Welcome to the March 11th, 2019 meeting of the Northfield Select Board. I call the meeting to order. Is Chelsea here? I hear she needs to get home quickly. Come on down.
Hi.
I'm just here to introduce as a sewer commissioner our new operator, Chelsea Little, so people can put a face with a name for down there.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You've been with us a little while already, haven't you?
About a month,
Okay.
a little over a month.
Okay. How's it going?
It's good. Yeah. Yep, it's good. I enjoy it. Yeah.
When are you completing your master's degree?
May of this year.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and it's in public health
Nice.
from the University of Vermont.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
All right, I know we have Sam on the agenda, but are there other citizens' concerns before we get to that? Come on down.
Hi everybody, I'm Brian Bordner, 29 Ashwillet Road, and I just thought I'll inform you. Last Thursday I handed in an article for the town warrant that was certified at that time, and then it was brought up to the town administrator to go on the warrant for this coming year to limit the amount in the omnibus budget. And I just thought I did not have enough time on Thursday to get on the warrant for this meeting. So, and I found out that you have to be ahead 24 or 48 hours. So I just thought I'd come and present that to you. If you'd like, I can come back in 2 weeks at the next Selectmen's meeting to answer any questions, or you can go to my website and you can read what we're going to be posting over the next 2 weeks.
What is the website, Brian?
It's www.01360tax.org,
Okay.
which is the website for the Northfield Taxpayers Protection Association. Okay?
Thank you.
And if you need me, I'll be back in 2 weeks.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other citizens' concerns? All right, Sam, you wanna come up?
Hi, I'm Sam Browning from Gulf Road, and a few words about me. I was born in Northfield, raised in Northfield, went to school in Northfield, graduated from Pioneer, got drafted into the Army, did a tour in Vietnam, and have lived here ever since. I started my trucking business in 1974, about 45 years ago. Northfield is my home. I would like to explain why I'm here. About a year ago, I realized that there was a lot of controversy in Northfield. This controversy was between some of the departments, between the residents and departments, between the select board and the town employees, and so on and so on. I'm not talking about the day-to-day bickering that goes on in town. That's normal stuff. I'm talking about a deep division. I talked to several folks who had concerns and complaints, and I think were too shy, intimidated, nervous, afraid to speak up, and this bothered me. I wanted to fix this. So I talked to the town clerk, the town secretary, town administrator, the chief of police. After all these conversations, it was clear to me that I needed to get all these folks together. I needed to give them a voice. This is how and why the Concerned Citizen Group was formed. The major concern of our group for tonight is the police chief's annual salary increase in the current contract. The previous contract which was in effect from February 15th of 2014 to February 15th of 2017, had an annual salary of $68,800 in change. The current contract that took effect January 1st of 2017 and expires at the end of this year has an annual salary of $95,000 for 2017, $98,000 for 2018, and $101,000 for this year. This is an annual pay increase of 38% for 2017, 42% for 2018, and 47% for this year. This current contract was signed by the Select Board Chair, Jack Spanbauer, Tracy Rogers, Julia Blythe, the other two board members, on December 6th, 2016. I need to say this before I go any further. I do not fault the police chief for this contract, for this current contract. I don't care what the chief and his council ask for. The select board members are supposed to negotiate a contract in the best interest of Northfield and its citizens. So right now, I would like to ask first Julia what your reasons were for signing a contract with that kind of an increase.
Part of it was a recommendation of our town administrator at the time. Part of it was a change in the contract that made there be no more overtime given to the police chief. So he was expected to do all of the duties without taking any overtime. I believe those were the main two reasons that I had.
So do you know what the overtime was? I tried to get all the overtime today from the accountant, and last Thursday, but he wasn't around. So do you know, what puzzles me is, were you taking the overtime away that he had to do? Was there overtime in the previous contract that he was doing that you didn't want him to do anymore?
Can I answer that?
Yeah.
I did some calculations this weekend. Andrea did provide me with the salary and the overtime for the chief for the last 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
The overtime, the 3 years going into that 2017 contract we signed, was in the area of $20,000.
Okay, now you're talking the overtime on top of the $68,800.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have any idea what the hours were?
No, I don't.
Okay.
The reasoning the town administrator gave us at the time when he suggested we go to the higher contract figure was that when you took the two numbers together, the regular pay and the overtime, it came up close to that number anyway. And this gave us a predictable number to put in the budget every year. If you don't know how much overtime is going to be, you don't know what to budget. And that he should be a salaried employee because he was management. He should not be getting overtime. So this gave us a way to give him a flat salary, predictable, and make him a salaried employee.
Okay, was your intention to, let me back up. Just say, for instance, in that $20,000 of overtime, okay, I can't calculate this that fast, but just say you had $1,000. Okay, was your intention that he would have less than 1,000 hours overtime, or just hours? So in other words, at that one there, if he had 1,000 overtime and his regular salary was $68,000, and the hours that you figure on a regular salary for 40 hours a week, 52 days a year is 2,080. So was your intention that because he had 3,080 hours roughly for the year, that he was going to have that same amount of hours?
Yes.
Okay. Then that brings up the next question. Do you know how many hours he worked?
I don't, because a salaried employee is not supposed to clock his hours.
Okay, so how do you know?
The same way I know every other employee fills out their timesheet, and I trust them to fill it out.
Okay, so there's no oversight from the board to make sure?
I might add one thing here, just if I may. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt. The duties and obligations in the contract were the same. So you're presuming that if it took X amount of hours to do them those 3 years, it's going to take the same amount of hours to do them in the next contract. So what you're saying is that you didn't change the job description, you didn't change the contract dramatically in terms of duties. So he's got to do his the duties and obligations that are in the contract, and he is being paid X amount to fulfill those. And that didn't change. You didn't take away any duties, you didn't take away any obligations. So presumably he would take the same amount of time to do them in the first contract as he does in the second and the third and fourth and so forth, unless you change the duties.
Okay, on that overtime hours, how much of it was on details or something like that?
I have no
Nothing?
idea.
Details wouldn't be in overtime hours. That's different. Details are completely separate. He would not be doing details as an overtime. I mean, you can't. That's just law.
Because here's the concern of the town, at least that group. Like, there's many of the group members are here, and some of them are here that want to get into the group. What our concern is that with no oversight, if the only thing that he did in those overtime hours before was just his normal duties, then that would be one thing. But we don't have any idea of that. So there should be some type of oversight. There should be a policy here to be able to, because otherwise what I get is it kind of sets you up. If somebody walks into the selectman's office with a complaint and says to you, the police chief has not worked all week long. I mean, it's just bizarre statement. Okay, he hasn't worked all week long. You have no idea if they're true or not.
Well, that's not exactly true because I talk to him just about every day. So
Well,
it would be pretty clear to me if he didn't, unless I knew he was on vacation or medical leave or some other thing, that if he didn't show up for a week or didn't put in time, it becomes quickly apparent. I mean, they have duties and obligations. So, so if they don't fulfill those, it usually doesn't take long to realize they're not being fulfilled. The oversight in that respect is the contract and their obligation to fulfill it. And if they're not, it becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly. Unless, of course, they're away on vacation or they're on medical leave, or there might be any number of reasons why somebody isn't in for a week.
Like I say, it looks like there's just no accountability in overtime. I mean, in the hours of the police chief. That's what it looks like to people. So I'm just speaking people's views of that. So I would like to see some type of a policy made that would at least have something, because if there's no hours logged in, then it looks like you gave him a raise for a 40-hour week. And then that would be true with the 47% raise that you gave him for this year from the previous contract, because it's $101,000 this year. You know, so it's a 47% increase from the previous contract. So it looks like if he's only working 40 hours, then you gave him that type of an increase. If he's working that extra 1,000, that fictitious 1,000 hours on top of it overtime, then you'd have some type of a case, but we don't know that.
Looking at how much the chief's been paid since 2014, he's actually only in 6 years gotten a 3% raise total. If you count the overtime he used to get and now he doesn't get it, he's gone from $97,000 in 2014 to $101,000 in 2019.
Because that pay scale, and I don't have all the figures here, but just asking around, I'm not too far off to know that you've got Orange that touches close to his salary, a lot bigger town. You've got Montague that's probably right around in that same category as a bigger town. Greenfield is a lot bigger. And I think they're at 1.25 or something. I could be off on some of these figures. But what I'm saying is, for a small town like Northfield, the pay scale, the salary for this police chief is high. And that is a concern. And that's why all these details of figuring out why in the world it went from $68,000 to $95,000 is a serious concern in the town. Okay. Now we've got to get into, this is a tricky subject. The executive session you guys have gone into for negotiating a new contract. It's a tricky thing. I have questions, but I can't ask them because you can't answer them. Mm-hmm. So what I'll do here, it'll sound like I'm just talking to myself, but I'll make the statements anyway. And there are a couple questions in here I'd like to ask Andrea. And at the time when I ask it, I'll make sure that you have time enough to give it a quick thought so we don't say something we ain't supposed to say. Okay. We are curious why there are negotiations ongoing since February 11th of 2019. And that's the last meeting, or that, yeah, the 11th, the February 11th was when you went into executive session, reason 3, and I found out that that was for the contract for the chief. And I assume that was the first one you went into. The current contract doesn't expire until the end of the year. The current contract, according to my research, took from 11/23 of 2016. That was the first executive session that I could find in the archives, to the signing of it on December 6th of 2016. So it took 13 days from the time that you went into executive session. And correct me if you went into executive session previous to that, I couldn't find it on any of the archives, so that 13 days could be longer if you went into executive session previous to that. So it took 13 days to negotiate and sign a contract. Okay, and that contract didn't run out until February, but so you signed that 2 months and 22 days before it ran out, but you implemented it at the beginning of 2017. So it basically was a month or so after you signed it, it went into effect. I assume that either party can initiate a negotiation for a contract. I'm going to ask you that. Can you answer that?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Do you know who initiated the negotiations for the new contract? Or can you tell me that?
The chief.
The chief did, okay. This is just a statement for me. I still just can't get past why you would want to have a negotiations on a contract that doesn't run out until the end of the year. It's 10 months early.
Sam, there is a provision in the contract that says we have to do it at least 6 months before the end, so we're not too early.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's at the end of June. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's still early. You'd have to let him know that. You'd have to let him know that if you were going to implement negotiations, you'd have to let him know by the end of June. Mm-hmm. So like I said, it still looks funny that's okay. When I raised my children, I always tried to answer all their hard questions. I didn't want them making up their own answers. Which, anybody that's had children realizes that. I feel like the folks in town are making up some of their own answers. They deserve the facts. This is their town. I think we are looking at a real strong possibility that this contract that's in negotiations now could be signed real soon. We are afraid that this new contract could have another big increase, and we haven't even got past the last big increase. Andrea, you said to me that the signing of the new contract got postponed and pushed ahead to April. Is this
No,
correct?
all I said was that although there was an initial request, then the select board took a month to meet again for their discussion, whereupon they would probably not meet again until April at the earliest, and they haven't had their meeting yet. So I can't predict where they're at or whether they'll want more time or they want to meet and discuss more. At some point, they'll have to meet with the chief.
Mm-hmm.
Which all I figured was is the earliest that would happen. The earliest that would probably happen would be April, and that's if they're ready after this meeting. And there's no way for me to say or know the answer to that. That would be the earliest I would expect that they would meet with the chief. I have no way of knowing whether a contract would emerge from that. That's a negotiation that they have to undertake.
So, is there a date? So you say April, it could be April 1st, or like I think if I'm correct, your meeting in April would be on the 8th. Is that what you?
That would be, I think that's their first potential meeting. Nothing's
Right.
Nothing's set till it's posted, but that would be the first
Right.
potential meeting.
So would it be safe to say that you wouldn't be able to sign that contract at least until the 8th of April?
Well, they can sign the contract with 48 hours notice at a posted meeting, but so to say that they wouldn't, I can't, no one could say that and make that promise. I don't think they anticipate doing it, but you know, it's not for me to decide. That's the board.
Our group feels that Julia should not sign a contract that doesn't even expire until about 8 months after she's gone. This doesn't seem appropriate to us. Would this board consider having a meeting with the town's people before you sign a new contract? We would like to have a discussion about the current contract. If you could find out what we didn't like and what we did like about it, we think it would help you negotiate a new contract more in line with the wishes of the people.
Would you like to write something and submit it to us so we could take that into consideration?
We could do that, but I'm just saying what? Just give me your view before we go any further on what, if there's opposition to this contract, the current contract, and you're negotiating for a new contract. We don't want to get into that one, but I don't think I've ever seen a contract that's gone backwards. So if the townspeople feel that this contract that's current is a little bit overblown or too high, it's pretty obvious to me that a new one will even be, it ain't gonna be any less. It'll be either more or the same. So what value does a group of people have in your signing a new contract, or maybe negotiating deeper, or really taking into concern? You know, in other words, if I came in here with a petition of every person in town, which would be impossible, but if I came in here with a petition with every person's signature on it in town, how much water would that hold with you guys?
Sam, the job of a select person is to keep in mind the best interests of the community. So I only hope that in the future, the select board looks into the best interests of the community. Because I don't think this last contract that was signed looked into the best interests of the community. Last year, I asked Chief Layton on camera of why he deserved a $20,000 vacation payout. $20,000. And when I asked him, and I got realistic answers back, he told me that he works full-time or 40 hours, and that if he's getting this lump sum of money, that means he hasn't taken a vacation in some odd amount of time. Just going off what you said earlier on where's the oversight in that. We have no oversight in that, but just take his word for it, whatever he writes down. because it's going to be exactly what Deb Miro, town accountant at the time, will have. So that's really all I got to say about it. I just hope that the select board, as a whole, as we are, will take into interest the town's interests, because that's why we're here. We're not elected to represent one person or a group of people, but the entire town. And we should not, I really hope Tracy Rogers and Julia Blythe are not looking out for the interests of one person or for a group of people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I gotta say.
Good words. Okay. I'm going to say this again. I don't fault the police chief for the current contract. I don't care what the chief and his council ask for. The select board members are supposed to negotiate a contract in the best interest of Northfield and its citizens. Exactly what you said. Okay. I'm getting wrapping up here. For next week's meeting, I would like these. This is part of the contract that I think you and I had gone over, that highlighted part. And you gave me your opinion, and it could be right. And some members wondered if maybe it was something else. So is there any way to find out legally what that actually says?
Yes.
Do you follow me?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Excuse me, Sam, just for the purpose of the record here, would you mind reading that?
Can you read it? You got it right in front of you.
Oh, okay, I'll read it.
Yeah, you read it.
Under compensation, Section 12, letter B at the bottom, the chief will be responsible for any retirement contributions resulting from the availability and personal use of such vehicle. The personal use value of such vehicle has been taken into consideration in determining the chief's compensation under this agreement.
Okay. And what it appeared to some people in the group was that the consideration of that vehicle, the value of it, was going to be added on to his retirement. Okay. Mm-hmm. And what Andrea said that it looked like it was just the opposite.
Right.
But one of the members read that and says, I don't know, because of that last sentence. It could go either way. So I just want to make sure. So like I say, I'm no lawyer, and I wouldn't even have saw that to begin with. But this is sheets and excuse my, didn't know what I was doing. But that's for the next meeting. There's just some questions and stuff I'd like to have you look at for next meeting. Don't have to do that now. Okay, in closing, I would like to say, when my wife and I had grandchildren over and they were young, we used to say to them, use your words. Anytime we were trying to explain something, we'd say to them, use your words. So I'd like to say to the folks of Northfield, when you have an issue or a concern, use your words. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on with the agenda. I move we approve the payroll warrant of February 26th for $35,773.02. The vendor warrant of $16,769.38. The March 5th payroll warrant of $28,947.78. And the March 5th vendor warrant of $236,896.81, which includes the tech school assessment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Review and approval of minutes. All of them, including the executive session, looked fine to me, but we can take them one by one if you guys want.
The minutes for February 11th, 2019, those looked pretty good. Yeah, I liked those.
I had one little stupid editorial comment under business review draft of complete streets. The second bullet, it says like on a road on a local level. Is that what you mean?
Before work is done on a road on a local level.
I guess I was. Anyway, how about on roads on a local level? Sorry.
That's fine.
Okay.
That it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
I thought the February 25th was fine as well.
Yeah, me too.
And the executive session look okay?
Yeah.
I move we approve February 11th executive session, and February 25th minutes as written, as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We did not have any interim select board meetings since last meeting. Since last meeting, I attended the teacher negotiation meeting, a joint heart and school committee meeting, the town caucus, the school budget hearing, and a short-term rental workshop.
We just had a sewer meeting a little while ago, and I know it's going to be on a future agenda to talk about some of the administrative difficulties we've had and concern over the raise of the sewer rate and stuff like that. So I'm sure I will gladly talk about that when it's on the agenda, but I don't want to take up the time right now to do that.
I offer if you want the rest of the sewer commission to come with you, that's fine. I'll let you guys decide that.
Okay.
I attended a school committee meeting, a joint school committee and heart committee meeting, and a park committee meeting.
All right, the only thing left under business, direct deposit personnel policy changes, which look the same as the last time you gave them to us,
Yes,
right?
I didn't change them. It was you wanted to take some time to look them over, so that's why we just moved them to the next agenda.
And they looked fine to me last time.
Yep.
Still, go ahead.
I move we approve the direct deposit personnel policy changes as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, town administrator update.
A lot of budget. Been doing a lot of budget. Sent out the article requests previously, a week or so ago. So I'm working on those administratively here, and hopefully we'll be getting those from the departments for those, and we'll be doing the capital requests, and so hopefully you'll have a pile of those for your next meeting to be looking over. I also met with the town accountant. We've worked on the spreadsheets to date. He's got a lot of things that are going really well. He's getting the budget book and getting all those numbers put in. So I'm hoping, I'm sure I'll talk to him tomorrow, I'm hoping that maybe by the end of this week we'll have something that will be user-friendly. And I've been working on the revenue piece, getting all the accounts, getting all those numbers so that we can kind of put it together till it looks like a budget that you'd recognize with the revenue piece in it and be a very first stab at what we might be talking about in terms of the whole picture. So that hopefully will be coming in the next week or so. The Finance Committee meets tomorrow night, so I don't know that I'll have his pieces by then, but bring them up to date on what I have and what I've seen. The audit agreement, I have an audit agreement, which I would just ask, I guess, the chair to sign. You've already approved the money, so this is just basically allowing the auditor to begin your FY18 audit. You guys voted it at last town meeting. I think you voted 23,000. The audit's going to be 16, so we saved a little bit of money there. And it just goes through basically what's expected, and it's pretty much standard accounting procedures. And he's offered to do the audit for 16,000 for the next 3 fiscal years with no change in. So we would do an 18 now, 19 next year. So there will be an article to do that funding, and then there'll be a 20. It's important to do 3 years. First of all, it gives you time to implement all the changes and have them recognized in the next successive audit. And second of all, if you are in the future, which there's been some discussion, and that's completely completely starting over, but looking to borrow or bond for any kind of significant project, you have to have 3 audits. So it makes sense to at least start down that path. And it's been 8 fiscal years or 7 fiscal years since there was one, so yeah, it's long overdue, and I know that there's a lot of people who'll be pretty happy to see it done. Also, then there'll be an article for an OPEB audit. That's the other post-employment benefits, retiree health care. And there's a standard accounting practice for that, GASP 75, that it has to be done in compliance with. I know that you set up your trust fund last year, actually put some money into it, so that's a great step. But what you really need is the audit that tells you what you should be putting in every year and your liabilities going forward, so that you have some sense of that direction. The goal being to be as fully funded as possible for those liabilities without a huge surprise at any time. So that's another one that will be going into the warrant. I know that you put in $900 for the audit last year, but the full audit, especially now that you actually have the trust fund and you actually have money in the trust fund, is closer to $6,000. And they will be looking for it when they do the audit. They're going to be telling you need a GASP audit, because that hasn't been done in I think at least 4 years or more. You're supposed to do them every 2 years.
Okay.
So that will be coming along, which will put the audits together, which will be very nice and I think a lot of financial. The other thing, I met with the fire department, went over there, unfortunately, conflicted with the other meeting I had signed up to go to, which was the housing, short-term housing rental, but I know the fire department only meets once a month, so it was an opportunity I didn't want to miss, so I went there instead, explained to them about the direct deposit and met everybody and talked about things, and it was a great group of guys, so.
Good.
And gals, I can't remember, it was one or two. You know, that was nice. The Gulf Road heavy vehicle exclusion. Received a letter from Mass DOT. It is approved by them. However, you need a town meeting warrant article for a bylaw. It would be an ordinance if you were a city and a mayor could sign it, but since you're not, it's a bylaw. It's not a zoning bylaw, it's a general bylaw, so you don't have to go through the whole hearing process and post and all that, and have hearings, but it is an article that I was putting together for you to include it, to include that heavy vehicle exclusion. I've emailed Irving to see what they're putting in. They also have to do it. So to see what Brian over there is, see if their language is the same or similar. Make sure that we can get that through, since you've been waiting quite a while for that. So we had a meeting on the electrical for the town hall on the side of the building here. We're waiting to hear back from Eversource on the cost, because they are the ones that will do the engineering piece of that, so they will come back with a cost. It's way more complicated than I think people thought it was going to be, and also involves some serious changes to that corner parcel, which I think people might want to rethink before we rush ahead and do this, but we're waiting to see what the cost is first, and then that group will get together and meet and talk about it, and maybe come back with some tweaks or changes or a different proposal at that time. So we've done that at this time.
Do you know where the drainage in the back parking lot stands?
The drainage in the back parking lot, we did get a quote from the engineer. Tom was very unhappy with the quote just for the engineering. It was quite pricey, so I believe he's reaching out to some other engineering firms to get some competitive quotes, because they wanted quite a bit of money just to engineer it, and it seemed a little bit excessively high. So
do we still need an easement from the abutters?
We would, yes, but we haven't moved on that yet until we have a sense of the engineering. And I think if we get the engineering, you should have it done before you determine what the easement will look like, because you need the plan to know exactly what you would propose.
Okay, thank you.
So we're working forward on that.
Good. All set? All right, we have a couple of appointments here. I move we appoint Jack Spanbauer, Steve Saradinsky, John McDougall, and Sean Foster to the Business Park Committee, term expiring when their charge is completed.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And Hadley is not here, correct? All right, I move we appoint Hadley Antic to the EMS department as a part-time paramedic, term expiring 12/31/19.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain from that. I would have liked to at least interview him. I think that would have been nice. He's a town employee. We just appointed him, and I didn't get a chance to even meet him. So.
Okay.
Her.
Him? Her?
Her.
Hadley. Okay, I'm sorry. Her.
All right, we have a couple of announcements. Pie Day, March 14th, Thursday, at the Dickinson Library. Starts at 1 o'clock until there's no pie left. They are looking for bakers. Feel free to drop off fresh pie on Wednesday, the 13th. And we have a flyer here for a State of Our Town Spaghetti Dinner, April 6th at the elementary school. Doors open at 4 o'clock. Tickets are $10 for adults, $5 for free. I'm sorry, $5 for kids 5 to 12, and kids 4 and under are free. Thank you. And I hear Cheryl's going to MC this year. It's great. Any other announcements? No. And anything else before we get into the executive session? All right, then I move we enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining position. For two different reasons. We have the police chief contract and the police union contract. we will not be returning to open session. We move into executive session for those reasons.
A second.
Tracy says yes.
Alex says yes.
Julia says yes.